everybody. Katie Swayne, Director of Alumni Affairs, again with another Alumni Highlight podcast. And we have our President of the Alumni Association with us, Randy Friend. Randy, if you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. So, everybody, welcome back. I know this is our second time doing this. Hopefully, you enjoyed last month's where we were actually interviewing two of our great women's basketball alums that had a beautiful story about how they partnered together, just both from driving a minivan for the first time to now being there for each other as they've gone through some of life's great challenges. That being said, somebody who's one of my favorite people in my time at Shepherd. Granted, he graduated later, so he's not as old as I am, right? I have a little bit of an old head when it comes to those things, but one of my favorite people ever, Ryan Baxter, is joining us today. Ryan, we would love for just kind of a quick introduction about you and your class and major, and then we'll get into the questions.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Baxter. I graduated in the year 2006. I was started off as a music major, and then I transitioned into elementary education. That's what I had my degree in before when I left Shepherd University. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Ryan, that's great. You actually kind of are kicking us off already, right? You did your undergrad here. Obviously, you started in the music ed space. As you said, you transitioned to elementary in 2004, I think you said, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about like what was your time at Shepherd? Like what made you go into that transition in from music ed to
Mhm.
elementary and what was kind of the catalyst for
Yeah.
that?
Oh, wow. Well, even before that, why Shepherd was because of my high school band director is an alumni from Shepherd, Chris Nagy, and he just threw this idea at me. He knew I wanted to go away from Baltimore, which is where I'm originally from, but not too far away. And I looked at the map like, oh, I can handle this. And so that's how that seed was planted, is from my high school band director. And music was a core source of joy for me, and that's what I started and interested in. And so when I think about Shepherd, Shepherd is like two parts. My time there is like the music time, and then there's the education era. And what was the catalyst? Well, first, when I was in the music department, it was like the music um, was, I wouldn't say all consuming, but it required so much attention and focus. And so there really wasn't much outside of the music building. And so I know me as a person who likes to connect, I was like, I'm missing so much other parts of what the university has to offer, or at that point, college, before the name switch, right? That's my age too showing. Shepherd College versus Shepherd University. Um, and
Right?
one,
It's
yeah,
funny.
one summer, instead of coming back to Baltimore, I stayed there in Shepherdstown and got a job at the daycare center in the town. And I realized I really love working with like children, not just through music, but like just to get them the foundation. So I was working with 3 and 4 year olds at that time. And that is what started me to get on this mindset. I was like, maybe I can do something beyond the music. And talk to my mom because she put so much energy and like finances before into becoming like the music person I was going to grow into, and talk to my friends. They all supported me, and so that's when I made the change in 2004, was to go to elementary education. Yeah, and then the rest is history. Graduated with that, and then I like started teaching in Montgomery County, just right outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah. So, um, as we talk kind of about that transition a little bit, I
Yeah.
thought, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, right? Like you were also involved in multicultural leadership, you were involved in A team and things like that. So,
Yeah.
I remember that stint from your time at Shepherd. Was that once you became an elementary ed major, or did you
Mm.
do that also during your time in music ed? Because as you said,
Oh,
and you were
yeah.
absolutely correct, music ed is like a very encompassing, that is a lifestyle, it's not a major. So but I do recognize and remember you were very involved in other things.
Yeah. That I did do some. The A team is that still a thing? I don't know.
It is still a thing.
Oh,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
so beautiful to hear. Yeah, I was a member of the A team while in the music department, right? And so in the summertime, we had that time to explore, and those were also a venue for me to see there's so much more beyond that part of the campus, and that's also what sprinkled the interest into to spread my wings and my scope at the school, right? Um, so between A team and I did the program Gateway Academy. I don't think that's running
Yeah.
anymore. Is it? Yeah. It's a beautiful program where they invited the students who needed a little bit more push from around West Virginia to come and spend time in the summer on a college campus to get access to what life could be like if you were to leave your small town in West Virginia. And I loved being part of that. And so I guess those elements too is also what triggered me to like want to change my major to elementary education is that gateway program as well, now that I speak about it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
taking you back. We're gonna take a little,
Yeah,
we're gonna jump on the train, we're gonna go down memory lane here
I
a little
love
bit,
that.
right? So as you kind of, had your time at Shepherd, you wrapped that up. Like you said, you went to Montgomery County to teach. Were
Mhm.
you just teaching just regular elementary ed at that point, or were you in some other areas?
Mm. No, I was regular, like general education. I started off as a kindergarten teacher, and then I transitioned with my kids into first grade. And then my principal, at that time, he saw like my leadership skills and qualities. He wanted to like mentor me. And so that's when he also gave me the opportunity to become like the team leads, starting in the first grade. And then I jumped to fifth grade to get my skill set up there. Because when I started teaching, I made an intentional choice to teach multiple grades, so I will have the skill set and the knowledge and like the street cred for when I ever become a principal. Because my goal was
Okay.
to become a principal like in the long term.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of doing your thing in Montgomery County, right? You're teaching, if I'm adding up some years here, again, you should teach me the elementary math, right? So we're talking about like probably like 3, 4 years, somewhere in that range at this point. But then you kind of make this transition, right?
Yeah.
So is this when you start to go to the other kind of school in DC? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh man, no. Even before I started, let me back up to my student teaching era. For before I
Okay.
graduated college, me and two other friends opted to do the DC student teaching experience, where we got to do half of it in Washington DC, where Shepherd helped support us in like the commuting costs and all that, and then half of
Oh,
it was done
wow.
in West Virginia. So when I was teaching or student teaching in, oh, I forget the school, but it was a Spanish immersion school in Northwest DC. We would have to wake up at like, I don't know, 4 a.m. in the morning, hop on that commuter train at the MARC station in Duffields, and like, oh
Yep.
no, it was just
Yep.
like that commute to get into like Shady Grove, I don't know, like around like 6:30, and then transit into the DC Metro to get into Washington, DC. That was a commitment, but it was like an amazing opportunity that Shepherd got to provide us. And I was very grateful for that. And that is what also that experience stuck with me about teaching in like an urban setting, which led to me eventually moving to New York City to teach after Montgomery County time. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so you went from Montgomery County to New York, and it was kind of
Yeah.
this student teaching thing in this Spanish immersion. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
because I was like trying to get my timeline together. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
make you seem older than you are, right? We don't want that.
Yeah, no.
So okay, so tell me, this is because this is the part of your story that I love, right? Like, just knowing you, and again, coming from Baltimore and things like that. Like, how did you find this school or this opportunity in New York? Number one, and two, yes, you lived in Baltimore, you went to a small school in West Virginia, you were kind of in Montgomery County, right? So you've done kind of the urban, bourbon, the rural kind of experience, but I think it's safe to say that New York City can be a completely different beast, right?
Oh my gosh.
And that's that's a big adventure, right? Like you're truly stepping out of your comfort zone. So what intrigued you about that adventure of your story or that chapter
Yeah.
that you wanted to embark on that?
I was just ready for a change. I wanted to try something new before I committed myself to like, I don't know, living in like the DC metro area forever. So my original purpose was to like take a, what's the word? Not hiatus, sabbatical. I wanted to take a
Okay.
sabbatical from Montgomery County and give a try to New York. My But my roommate, beginning teachers, we don't make very much money, right? Even Montgomery County at that time, what is this now, 2006 to 2009 at this point, we are. And so my roommate also was ready for a change. And so we were like, let's check out what New York City, like it's where dreams are made of. And we were just always traveling there on the weekends and just we were very intrigued by it. Uh, so how did I find that first job? It was a private school, private IB school. It was a British school. I was looking on the websites. What was it life was like back then? I don't, it wasn't like social media like we
Well, in
can
fact,
do
that was dial up.
right?
It was AOL. It was you might find something in a paper like
Maybe I was looking on the IB website because my current school in Montgomery County was an IB school, and maybe I was
okay,
looking on the IB website and I found that was that an option? Yeah, and
nice.
so yeah, interviewed. So like thankfully I got that job, and I was like, all right, we're making it happen.
Yeah.
And that first year of New York was rough. Was
So
rough.
so did your roommate also make the opportunity and make the trip? So
Uh,
both of you went or
She delayed her. So I was like, all
okay.
right, I can't wait for you. I'm like, we already told the landlord we're moving. I'm like, and I put my paperwork in to like have this time off. I gotta go. I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I made the leap without her first. And then she eventually
Wow.
came a couple years later.
So
Yeah.
you really did, you were like, I'm going for it. Like
I'm so
there's like
yeah,
I'm literally packing it and making this happen. That's so awesome. I love that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just remember growing up. I just remember like thinking about there has to be more than what I have experienced so far, and I just want to not limit myself. And so between like those experiences at Shepherd from what I talked about earlier, and then now I was just so ready to again make another big decision. First, moving from Baltimore to West Virginia, Montgomery County, and now MoCo to New York. Yeah, big moves.
Yeah. So tell us all about that. Like I think like, obviously it's an IB school, right? And you said it was a
Mhm.
British school, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, are you still teaching English-based curriculum, that
Mhm.
type of deal? Okay.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just give us that whole experience of what it was like to now be in New York.
All right. So it's a private school. I'm coming from a public school where I had like 30 to 35 students in my classroom, right?
At
And now
elementary. That's crazy.
in the elementary. And my very first class in my new school, 6 students. Six.
Wow.
I was like, what am I going to do with 6 students? How you can't do groupings? So I just remember I was like, all right, this is going to be a new challenge. Going from a massive class to a small class, and that requires a whole different type of skill set and really getting to know the kids like one on one. So it was like an IB curriculum mixed with the British national curriculum, is what I had to teach, and it was called Year Six, which is fifth grade in the American setting. And yeah, and so I was at that school for several years. I taught fifth grade. I taught math to sixth and seventh graders for a couple years. I was the what IT and the math coordinator as well. Yeah, I was doing all kind of things. I was like, this was the place to, again, remember my goal was to become principal. I was like, all right, what else can I build my skill set in? Because I want to have
Yeah.
that knowledge so I can be an effective principal one day. So I was thankful for that experience as well, for having a small
Okay,
business.
so at this point, right, you're
Yeah.
building your experience
Yeah.
amazingly, right? So, and you're still kind of on this idea of going to this idea of eventually being a principal and those types
Mhm.
of things. So, and how long were you there before your next move?
Mm. For the British National Schools, 2010, so it was six years to 2016.
Okay.
And then I moved again. I was now in IB schools from 2006 to 2016, 10 years, right?
Okay.
All right. So similarly, I was like, all right, what else is out there beside before I commit myself to IB forever? This is like a recurring thing I keep asking myself.
I love it. Yes.
And a new school had opened up a few years prior called Avenues the World School. It's a top tier school, very competitive to get into, and it has great graduation rates. And so I applied once before and I didn't get the job. Um, so I was like, all right, let me
And this
try
is
again
this is in New York, right?
in New York City. Yeah. And so
Sorry.
I
Okay.
applied
Okay.
again. I applied again over the summer. And I got the job. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, it's the summertime position. Like, how am I going to get this? And so in 2016 is when I began which now 10-year career with Avenues School. I've now been teaching for 20 years. And
Wow. That can't
so,
be.
yeah, so another private school, but a much bigger private school, much more prestigious private school in New York, and which has set me now on my journey to where I am now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so that's a that thank you because you're leading me right down this pathway, right? So Ryan's like, just shh, I'll tell the story, you just enjoy the ride. So this is the part of your story that I've always been so intrigued by, and I haven't gotten a chance to hear about it. So how do you go from New York to now being in China,
Yeah,
correct?
I'm in China. Well, currently, right now,
Yeah.
I'm in
So
Maryland, but I live and work
take
in
me on
China.
this journey.
Yes. All right. So
Yes.
Avenues is an immersion school. It has the Spanish immersion track and the Chinese immersion track. And when I got hired, I was placed on the Chinese immersion track. So what that means, I still teach in English, but I have a partner teacher teaches through
Okay.
Chinese, and we share the same students. And so I'm getting immersed into this type of culture of what it's like to um, teach with another teacher in a different language. So that's been a beautiful like co-teaching experience in
That's
other.
wild. Very
And
cool.
in 2017, I had the opportunity to go to China for the very first time. One of the parents at our school has this foundation from her in her little village in what near I don't know, a couple hours from Shanghai to give back to her community because she's made it, right? And she wants to give back with her resources that she has. So she brings people to her hometown to teach the students English and other skills for like the summertime. And so I got approved to do this program over one of the summers in 2017. And that's my first real introduction to China. And I was just blown away by the hospitality of the people, the culture, and like just how much it did not, because we're taught and we're fed so much through our news and through our media here in America. And it was definitely not what I was anticipating when I got there. It was very much the opposite.
Yes.
And so that really opened my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh. So that seed has been planted now. And so now I'm teaching in Avenues, New York, still up to 2019, still on Chinese immersion track. Having my kids third and fourth grade is what I have been teaching there, right? And Avenues has this plan to open up multiple schools around the world. So the motto was one school, many campuses. So we all teach the same curriculum, but it's modified for different cult or different countries where you are. And I got the phone call one day, or it's at this point, an Instagram message now, or 2018, saying we're opening the school in Shenzhen, China, and we want you to come and help us open this campus. I was like, oh my God, I always wanted to live abroad and like, is this my opportunity? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about my sister just moved to Hawaii at this point. And I was like, okay, now my mom and my stepdad there now alone without my sister. I was like, oh my God, can I make this big move across the world? And my sister has just done the same exact thing. And so my mom gave me the blessing to like do what you want to do to make you happy. Don't
I
let
love
me
it.
be the
I love that you went to mom for the blessing.
absolutely, right? Because I want to make sure like she feels like looked after too. And so yeah, 2019 came, I did all got the visas and all that stuff and made the big
Yeah.
move. I remember on the flight from New York to Shenzhen or Hong Kong, because then you drive into Shenzhen. Tears are in my face. I'm like, what am I doing? Because mind you, I've never been to Shenzhen ever in my life. Only been to Shanghai that one time, right? Um, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
how did I get convinced to do this? But put my big boy pants on. I was like, all right, we're just here. I'm in the plane now, so commit. And so I'm so glad I did. Because Shenzhen is such a modern, not just modern, future-oriented city. Uh, it's like Nick, now we have like those the drone deliveries. They're getting ready to pilot flying cars
Mhm.
to as taxis. Anything you, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of being ahead of the curve to what like what we're taught about China being in the American media. Yeah, and while I was yeah, hold on. What questions do you have? Sorry, I'm just talking.
No, don't worry. I'm taking notes. Don't you worry. I got a whole pad.
Yeah.
So okay. So again, so you make this move on your own, right? So
Hmm.
this again, now you're, and I'm actually going to use this phrase. I think I'm going to call it the Ryan Baxter mantra is don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, so you're doing this again, right? You're like, look, now instead of going, on the Amtrak,
Hmm.
up to Penn Station. I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to fly. And I'm assuming what is it, 14 hours
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
right? I
Hmm.
literally just calculated that in my head. That part's crazy. And so you're like 14 hours on a plane. You have nobody with you. You
Yep.
literally have probably
No,
a
no.
large suitcase. So
Six
do you have
suitcases.
like,
Six.
so do you have like a place to live and all that? It was all that kind of set up for you
Yeah, so
before
this is
you.
the great thing about, I guess, being an expat in China is like the benefits that come with that. Um, so the your job, even not just my school at Avenues, but many places, they put you up in a hotel for like several weeks so you can find the place that you want to live in.
Nice.
And we have this program called Embark where it's a time to because we're opening a brand new school. So first we had to team build, like we had to get to know each other. Then the next part was about getting ready for teaching, because at this point I was teaching kindergarten again in Shenzhen. And so between team building, getting ready for the lessons, setting up a brand new school, everybody was all in. The head of school, our direct managers, which are called the associate division heads, which are like the assistant principals, we're all just in it together. And that's what I love so much.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized I really love startups. And so I really love this mentality of a startup. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like everybody's involved, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
that's how it is because everybody has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So
so you get settled, right? So this is like 2018, 2019, is that right?
2019. Yep.
Okay.
2019.
Right. So
Yeah.
2019, you're out there, you're into your first year. This one
Hmm.
question has I had to write this down earlier in your talk because it dawns on me, right?
Yeah.
That you are 1 year in to
Hmm.
being an expat and the world comes to a halt.
You got that right. Yep.
So what is that like for you? Because not only are you like, again, like you said, right?
Yeah.
2019, you're in a new country. You're
Hmm.
on in some senses, you're on your own, right? You're probably there with people that are kind of in the same boat, right? So there's
Yeah.
some camaraderie there. You are having to teach kindergarten again, which is something you
Hmm.
haven't done for a minute. And then
Yeah.
okay, you're like, okay, let me do all these things, and then boom,
Yes.
walk me through what happens. How does your new school manage that whole process? And what was it
Mhm.
like over there for all of you in your community?
What a powerful question. And these are just moments I will never forget. Like, so, all right, so it's Chinese New Year, like it is right now, right? In 2020, and we're on holiday. So we started hearing rumblings before the Chinese New Year began. And but it wasn't a big deal yet. And so we're like, all right, we'll just go on our vacation and come back and see what's going to be. So we're in Thailand, having a kiki, having a great time. And then the news was like, all right, this is big virus now, and we're like starting to get scared. And we got these notices from Avenue saying, don't come back yet until we know more. All right. So we're like, all right, where can we go now? Our holiday's about to end. So we decided to go to Bali. And so we're in Bali.
Why
It's
not?
what one does, right?
I
Still
mean,
not oblivious to the severity that's to come, right? Uh,
lemonade out of lemons.
right. So make a longer vacation. This is beautiful. And so we're in Bali, and we got the notice, if you're going to come back to China, come back now, or else you won't be let back in because they're closing down the borders. And so we were like, do we want my friends, because we made some friends over this first few months. We're like, all right, one person went back to China, and the other of us, we said, all right, let's just go to New Zealand and hang out at my friend's house to make a plan, because we don't want to be locked in China. Again, we're brand new. It was only like 6 months into our first
Yeah,
time doing this. And once we're in New Zealand, just like trying to figure out our life, that's when then the rest of the world was talking about planes are going to be stopping. All right. So luckily, I mentioned earlier, my sister moved to Hawaii. And
yeah,
so that was my journey. I went from New Zealand to Hawaii, and then my friends went back to the mainlands of America to spend out their time. So I'm so thankful that I made the decision to do the Hawaii one instead of coming back to Baltimore, right? Um, because being stuck there almost all 2020. So it started off beautiful, get to go to the beaches and like, oh, well,
right.
it was great. But then they closed outside, like the beaches were closed and like you would get tickets and fines and like, so I had
Yeah.
to stay inside in my sister's house. And the school was just so, um, like supportive is the word because I remember I said earlier, it's one school, many campuses, and that's really when it really came into fruition. It's because they pulled together all the resources while many other schools in China were like firing their teachers and or not paying people. Avenues collectively used all the campuses from Brazil, America, and China to find a way to support the
Uh,
expats in Brazil and in China. And so we still got our paid and we still had our apartments paid for. 'Cause we're not living in them, but we're still got to
yeah,
pay the rent right too. And so Avenues continue to do all those things, I will never forget. And this is why I'm still with the company today, because it's a people first organization. And so I was with my sister and her family. So in the daytime, thankfully, Hawaii and Shenzhen are in great time zones because I decided to create a school for my nephews and niece, so to keep me occupied during the day and not have them have academic slide. So I made a school for them in the daytime, and then in the evening I would jump online and teach my kindergartners online in Shenzhen with my co-teacher at that time. And so that's how I survived essentially.
that's awesome.
And then I was able to come back in November of 2020. And then
Okay.
that was a whole nother deal because then we had to do like the COVID testing every day. We had these QR codes that we had to show. They would be green, yellow, or red. And if they were yellow, you weren't allowed to like do anything. You had to go to the hospital to get like tests and things. It was very, very, very strict.
Yeah.
Communities would be locked down. So this part of the news that you heard in the West was actually true. It was very, very, very stressful. But thankfully that went away a couple years later. But I persevered, whereas many expats
You
decided not to
did.
come back. I stayed, I persevered.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And so then I had to rebuild my friend.
Well, again, I think that's just,
Yeah.
I think it's such a tribute to who you are as a person, right? Is
Mhm.
the perseverance. Knowing you personally, it doesn't surprise me that we will laugh here in a second, but that you would be headstrong into this, that does not surprise me. So here's a great question for you.
Okay.
Okay. So you go all these years, you move all these places, you're super independent, you're doing all this. What's it like to move back in with your sister?
Oh my golly. Um, What? Oh, it's actually not that bad.
Okay.
We talked about how I can support. I don't want to be like a mooch, right? And so I was like, how
Right.
can I support and give back to you all? Her husband was very welcoming into this, so it was like free daycare, so they were happy. Like I
Oh,
was
so it was a win-win situation.
correct because the kids continued with their schooling from a real teacher,
Yeah.
like in person, not online, and so they
Yeah.
were quite happy with it. And I was happy with the location, Hawaii, so it was good.
You could have picked a worse place.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's amazing. Like you living through all that, right? So thank you for that because I was very intrigued by this whole idea of like
Yeah,
how you were managing that
sure.
whole thing.
Now it
Okay.
left scars, Randy. I'm not gonna lie, it left scars. Like I don't fly anywhere without my computer. I need like multiple like weather type of clothes because when I first got locked out, I only had beach clothes for Thailand and Bali,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And so now I feel like I'm always prepared. That left some kind of like trauma. And so yeah, I'm working
Well,
on
that's okay. That's good. Yeah. I mean, my suggestion is work on it either in Hawaii or Bali. That would be
it.
my suggestion. If you work backwards,
Yeah.
maybe
Ah,
that'll clear it up, right? I don't know,
uh-huh.
right? So okay, so now your things are kind of, we'll use the phrase the new normal, right?
Yeah,
Because that's kind of
yeah.
like what we're all living is this idea of the new normal.
Mhm.
Um, and so now you're just kind of in it, right? Are you still teaching kindergarten?
Yeah.
What's happening
Well,
with
no.
you as you've kind of grown?
Yeah, as the school has evolved and grown, I got to grow and evolve with it. So if I mentioned before, like I always wanted to be a principal.
Yes.
And so I 2021 is when I had the opportunity to become what's called an associate division head. And at Avenues, that's equivalent to like an assistant principal. And so, and that was
Okay.
like a great learning experience for me. Like learning how to work with adults
Yeah.
is is totally different. Or actually, it's maybe similar to children. I would say managing like their emotions and coming into our like one-on-one meetings. And then from after an associate division head, um, starting last year is when I became the director of academic innovation and pedagogy at Avenue Shenzhen. And so what essentially that is like I get to ensure with my team, like academic excellence is being throughout the school from Small World, which is our 2-year-old program, through 12th grade. I'm also innovating, creating new ideas that were how to keep avenues at the forefront of the educational field, because that's why we exist,
Yeah.
is to change the landscape of education. And so that's my pots that I'm working with now is like the whole school curriculum and whole school innovation and creativity, which I'm loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love that. So again, I think that brings it absolutely full circle, right? Like you had this idea that one day you wanted to be in that type of, we'll call it a leadership role. Like I always feel
Mhm.
like principals like, man, you
Yes.
really wanted to lead, right? And so I think that's awesome that you're able to really get to that. And I'm certain that's not the end.
Yeah.
Your story is not finished.
Oh
I
no,
can
no,
assure
no.
you. So
Yeah.
um that being said, are there, because I always want to be conscious of time, because I would, if it was just the two of us, this would be an all-day event, right?
Right.
And Katie knows that too. She'd be like, would you please stop him from asking questions? Um, Looking back, right? Because you've been out for a minute from your
I know,
undergrad
right?
days. I'm just going to say minute. We're not going to calculate. We're not going to bring up a calculator. We're
I
not going to bring up a
calculated this
calendar.
morning. I was like, oh my gosh.
Been a minute.
Uh-huh.
So So if you were to look back and you were to say
Yeah.
to Ryan back then, or really anybody that's
Mhm.
kind of an elementary or just, as a student today, what would you say? What advice would you give?
Yeah. Ooh, I would just say do things that are outside your comfort zone. I think that's what college is for. If this is for current people watching this are currently in there at Shepherd University, is it may not be something you are used to. It may not be something that you ever considered. If it's an opportunity, say yes, right? Because you really don't know where it will lead you or who you're going to meet or who can like help you down the line in the future. that's what my advice would be, is just to say yes to new opportunities.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
Mhm.
Ryan, I thank you so much for your time. I know you're on holiday, so I don't want to take up too much of it. I know you're back here in Maryland, which Katie and I were both excited about because when I said to her, "Hey, I've got somebody who lives in China," she looked at me like I had two heads, and I was like, "Yeah, it could be a 3 a.m. interview. That could be true." Which
And
she
she's
was
not
like,
doing that one alone.
she
Yeah.
was like, "And you'll be doing that one." Well, I thank you again so very much. You are, as I said before, one of my favorite people, one of my greatest memories of my time at Shepherd. So I appreciate you
Same
taking the
here.
time to do this. For those of us that, or those of you that are joining us today watching this, we appreciate you taking the time to watch it. If you have your story or someone you know that's a Shepherd alum and you want their story to be told, let us know. We love getting that type of feedback, those types of kind of requests and those types of things to keep this format going. And really, until next time, everybody, thanks so much.
Thank
Peace.
you
All right.
guys.